From the Toronto studios, this is the Muslim News on Muslim Network TV. Assalamu alaikum, I'm Zahra Syed. Our top story tonight. Taylor Swift, Selena Gomez, and Zoe Kravitz were amongst those who recently attended a fundraiser for Gaza. Some of the biggest names in the American entertainment industry were hosted by comedian Rami Youssef's comedy club in Brooklyn. Youssef confirmed on his Instagram page that all funds raised during the comedy show would be entirely donated to the American Near East Refugee Aid. Founded in 1968, the organization is non-political and non-religious. It focuses on building resources for immediate emergency relief and sustainable long-term initiatives in health, education, and economic development. The daily death toll in Gaza has now risen to 500, compared to 300 to 350 previously. According to Euromed Monitor, the total number of Palestinian casualties in Gaza is now 21,731 since October 7th. This includes 8,697 children and 4,410 women, as well as the missing and those buried under the rubble who are now presumed dead. The Gaza Health Ministry reports 50,000 injuries in the northern part of Gaza. Over the past 36 hours, 320 Palestinians have lost their lives, with an additional 550 people wounded. According to official figures, the number of Israeli casualties from the Hamas attack totaled 1,200. Euromed Human Rights Monitor is calling on the International Criminal Court to take immediate action to hold Israel accountable for its human rights violations. The deputy mayor of Jerusalem has urged the Israeli army to bury alive hundreds of Palestinians captured in Gaza, referring to them as Muslim Nazis. Aryeh Yitzhak King made the statement in a now-deleted post. The far-right politician's comments were prompted by recent footage released by the Israeli army of captured Palestinians. King's remarks sparked outrage and violated social media rules. He administers the territory within Jerusalem municipality, which encompasses both East Jerusalem and approximately 400,000 Palestinians. The deputy director of the United Nations World Food Programme warns that half the population in Gaza is starving as fighting continues. Carl Scow says 9 out of 10 people have nothing to eat. He also notes that only a fraction of the aid needed has been able to reach Gaza. Scow notes that conditions in Gaza have made food deliveries and other necessities almost impossible. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has denounced the United Nations Security Council, labeling it the Israel Protection Council. This is after the United States vetoed a resolution by the international body for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza on Friday. Erdogan said that the world was bigger than 5, referring to the 5 countries that have veto power in the council. He also warned that another world was possible without America. On the eve of the 75th anniversary of the Declaration of Human Rights on December 10th, Erdogan said that its provisions are being violated in Gaza. President Joe Biden's administration is taking legal action in federal court to seek the dismissal of a lawsuit relating to Israel's war on Palestinians. It accuses him and his team of not doing enough to prevent a potential genocide of Palestinians in Gaza. Rights groups and legal experts say the move is an attempt by the administration to avoid legal accountability for what some scholars argue is an ongoing genocide carried out by Israel against Palestinians in Gaza. The Center for Constitutional Rights, or the CCR, which is a party to the lawsuit, has expressed its disappointment in the government's stance on the issue. It says the government's lawyers have focused on jurisdictional matters rather than addressing the core issues raised by the lawsuit. The Biden administration argues the lawsuit should be dismissed. It claims that it could potentially interfere with the government's foreign policy decisions, which would violate the constitutional principle of separation of powers. The chair of the Jewish Federations of North America has been named as the interim leader of the University of Pennsylvania. Board of Trustees Chair Scott L. Bloc announced that Julie Platt would be in charge of the university's leadership on Saturday. Former President Liz McGill voluntarily stepped down from her role last week. This was after days of pressure following her comments during a congressional hearing on campus anti-Semitism. Bloc has also resigned. The university's board appointed Platt, who in a statement said that her primary focus would remain with the Jewish Federations of North America. She also admitted that the organization is currently spearheading the largest mobilization effort in their history to support Israel. Muslim teacher alleges discrimination over supporting Palestinians. Details come after the break. Stay tuned and we will be right back. Welcome back. A Muslim middle school teacher in Maryland has claimed discrimination for expressing support for Palestinians in her email signature. CARE has filed a complaint with the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission on behalf of the Hadra al-Hagan. CARE says she was placed on administrative leave by Montgomery County Public Schools. This was for allegedly violating the Employee Code of Conduct by including a political tagline in her email signature. CARE says that the teacher's colleagues had similar content in their email signatures, but she was the only one reprimanded. The civil rights organization says this case highlights discrimination and disparate treatment. Over 30 supporters demonstrated near the MCPS Board of Education in Rockville, demanding equal enforcement of policies and mediation opportunities for teachers. Palestinians who are detained by Israeli soldiers in Gaza for 4 days have been released and are sharing harrowing accounts of torture and humiliation. Israeli forces expanded their occupation of Gaza, leading to disturbing images of half-naked Palestinian men handcuffed in northern Gaza amid the destruction. Israeli authorities reported the detention of approximately 700 Palestinians. Those released from the Az-Zaytun neighborhood in East Gaza City displayed signs of exhaustion, numb hands, and injuries from alleged torture and hunger. Detainee Osama Yud described how soldiers fired at windows, broke doors, and demanded men to come out in their underwear despite the cold weather. They were handcuffed tightly, beaten, and some were temporarily buried in a pit. 14-year-old Ahmad Nimr Salman Abu Ras recounted how detainees were deprived of food, water, and bathroom access. Israel has destroyed the largest and oldest mosque in Gaza City with only its ancient minaret remaining. The 5th century Great Omari Mosque has been a Christian and Muslim holy place. Israel's relentless bombing since October 7th has led to significant damage to Gaza's architectural heritage. Approximately 195 sites have been identified, and 104 partially damaged. Gaza's Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities has called for action to preserve its cultural heritage. Other historic sites that have also been damaged include the Uthman bin Qashqar Mosque and the Hammam al-Samara. Leaders of the Intergovernmental Authority on Development, or the IGAD, met in Djibouti to discuss the Sudan conflict that has been raging since April 15th. Djibouti President Ismail Omar Guelleh, who is also the chairman of the East Africa Bloc, demanded an immediate ceasefire in Sudan. The IGAD Secretary General Workneh Gebiyehu said the summit has effectively secured a commitment from the Sudanese factions to cease hostilities. Ethiopia's Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed said Addis Ababa also called for a peaceful resolution to the conflict. For the past 8 months, fighting has spread from Sudan's capital Khartoum to several states across the country. At least 12,260 victims have been killed and more than 33,000 injured in the conflict. A humanitarian crisis continues to worsen as nearly 6.8 million people have fled their homes, seeking safety in Sudan or neighboring countries. Pakistan's former Prime Minister Imran Khan has criticized his country's decision to expel 1.5 million undocumented Afghan refugees. He has called it unnecessary and detrimental to Pakistan-Afghanistan relations. Khan, who is currently incarcerated, warns that hosting Afghan refugees for 40 years should not be squandered due to a flawed strategy. Many Afghan refugees first fled to Pakistan in 1979 to escape the former Soviet Union's invasion of their country. Currently, 1.3 million Afghans have registered refugee status in Pakistan, while 880,000 have legal status. Pakistan had set a 1-month deadline for undocumented foreigners to leave by November 1st. This led to the departure of nearly 500,000 Afghan refugees. Afghanistan, the United Nations, and the human rights organizations have opposed the forced expulsion, emphasizing the need for voluntary returns. Khan has urged the government to revisit its policy and adopt a more respectful approach to repatriate Afghan refugees. He has also warned of the potential for a permanent rift in the relations between the neighboring countries. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has announced sanctions on 2 Chinese officials for alleged human rights abuses against Uyghurs in northwest China. Gao Qi and Hu Lian are being held responsible for arbitrary detentions and cruel treatment of Uyghurs. The move aligns with the Uyghur Forced Labor Prevention Law, which was passed in 2021. It reinforces restrictions on imports from northwest China. Rashan Abbas of the Campaign for Uyghurs says the sanctions are a pivotal moment in the fight for human rights and justice. They come as the U.S. also blocks imports from 3 Chinese companies over concerns of forced labor. The move may further strain the U.S.-China relations. The United States has previously imposed sanctions as a result of China's repression of Uyghurs, alleging that the government is committing genocide. The U.S. has cited reports of torture, forced labor, sterilization, and curtailment of freedoms as evidence. China denies allegations of abuse and claims that its actions are part of an extremism eradication campaign. That's all from our Toronto studios tonight. Thank you for tuning in. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell icon for the latest updates. For more content, keep watching Muslim Network TV or visit muslimnetwork.tv. Assalamu alaikum and good night.